So let's talk about the difficult conversations. And this was part of the online courses that you took. But I just want to reiterate a couple of things here. And again, this is for test review, all right? So when we have these three conversations, the what happened, the feelings, and the identity conversation. So what I want you to remember about this is that this is about feelings. It's not about fact. So when we go into a conversation with what happened and with how are you feeling, we have to remember that we're not dealing with facts here. And these conversations happen more often than fact conversations. The feelings, the self-esteem, the feelings of being vulnerable here. And part of what we have to do to get to the fact conversations is to get through these feeling conversations. So I just want to review that as part of your test exam. So remember the truth assumption. We talked about that truth assumption when we go into a conversation. It's all about their perception. It's not about ours. And so they are writing their own truth with wherever their perception is, and we have to kind of get to that. And so doing that is thinking and acting like a mediator. Okay? So just again, remember that our students are not always coming to this conversation with facts. Okay? A lot of times it's feeling conversations. So in the exam, in the exam review, what I want to review is what we're covering. So we obviously are covering the competency model, okay? And you are perfectly welcome to have these models in front of you when you take the exam. This is not meant to be something that's tricking you. It's not supposed to be a trick. It's supposed to be you using the models in front of you as you take it. So the human communication model, which we'll talk about in just a second, I want to review a couple of things with that. The coaching versus mentoring, TGRO, of course, those fundamentals of business etiquette, do you remember that from the online courses? And then, of course, the difficult conversations piece. So all of that will be covered, and also servant leadership. So does anybody remember the definition of servant leadership? No?
Formal definition.
Yeah, so it's getting important tasks done through relationships.
I wrote it down.
Right? Yeah, I'm sure you wrote it down. Great. So important to remember, though, for the test, getting important things done through building relationships. So it's not about us saying, you need to go do this, you should go do that. It's that trust relationship, that communication that we build, and making sure that people, they want to do things that we ask them to do because they trust us and we have that relationship. That's what servant leadership is all about. So let's go back to the human communication model. Do you remember this one? Where we have the person who's the actor who's initiating the conversation, and then the co-actor who is receiving the conversation. So the actor is sending a star. So the actor is saying something, they're sending a star over to the co-actor, but then after it's encoded, it goes through that channel of interference. It's decoded by the co-actor, and the co-actor decoded it as a heart. Anybody ever have these kinds of conversations with people at home or work? Yeah, never. We never have this issue. And because we have these channels, and I've got my little interference factors there, right? Because we have that, and we get this interference in the channels, the feedback that we get back from that co-actor may not exactly be what we thought we said. And I know I've experienced that with my teams in my career, throughout my career. I will give them information, and I'll hear it back, and it's not what I said, but it's how they interpreted that. So I want you to remember that the channel has interference factors in it. And it always does, and it always will. It's that perception, what we're thinking about as we hear. It's where we're coming from when we're in a communication. And so just remember interference factors. So let's talk about the conversations here. And remember this one, the ritualistic conversation at the top. I want you to remember that when we start with a new mentee, that's what we're talking about. We're at that level. It's ritualistic. So it's It's what you would talk about with anybody, is just kind of passing the time, right? You meet somebody in a waiting room and, how about that traffic today? How about them Cowboys? How about the weather? Man, this weather's been crazy, right? All those ritualistic conversations we have. And then the second one is how about them Cowboys, right? You get a little bit deeper into those conversations. And then where we really want to be, right, is down there at the bottom. We want to get to the point where it's a more intimate conversation, where we can talk about their fears, their weaknesses, their hopes, the things that they want to do that kind of scare them sometimes, right? And I know for me, I just got here with mine this year. Just really kind of did. And this past week in the conversation we had, I could tell we were there, and it really felt great. And that's a relationship you could have with them for years after that. So we want to make sure we get there. So one question for you: do you remember what are the names of your teams with PLP? So when we kicked off in September, you were put on a team, right? What do we call those teams? Clusters. All right. That's an important piece for the exam. That will be it. Does anybody have any questions? All right. Thank you so much for attending today. I appreciate your participation.